Senator John Barrasso of the great state of Wyoming. Mr. Barrasso, as always, sir, great to see you. You heard my riff, but what's your own riff? What's your take on this thing?
Well, Larry, great to be with you. This is the politics of panic, and it is much too little, too late. And the White House and Biden and every open border Democrat has a right to be panicked because they know our open border is the #1 concern of American voters, and they know they let 10 million illegal immigrants into this country. That's what they've done over the years that Biden has been in office. So they have 94 executive orders that the Democrats have put forward opening the border, and now they have one that they say they're going to try to shut it down. This is campaign camouflage. That's all that it is. This is the Biden administration saying, oh, my God, we know that we're in trouble. We know that the American people don't trust us on the border. We have to do something. We got to pretend we're doing something. Whereas if they really wanted to do something to secure the border, they would finish the wall. They would get rid of this policy, which is catch and release, and we'd restore the Remain in Mexico policy that worked so well when President Trump was in the White House.
By the way, on that last point, the newly elected president of Mexico, the woman, she said she would cooperate to stop the immigration problem. She actually came out and said that. Obrador himself, AMLO, was cooperative with Trump. But then when Biden repealed all the executive orders, then, of course, Mexico turned its back and to this day has never restored the 25,000 troops that they put on the border to stop all this. As you well know, this history, Mr. Barrasso. Look, just a simple question. Who's going to enforce this, or how is this going to be enforced? Honestly, 2,500 per day for a week, then we go to 1,500, then we go up to 25. I mean, I don't understand this. We don't have the manpower. Already it's bad enough that the border authorities have been used as babysitters rather than actual military authorities to stop. I mean, how's this going to be enforced? I don't get it.
Well, the open border Democrats have no interest in enforcing it. But they're interested in smoothing the flow instead of stopping the flood of illegal immigrants coming to this country. Remember, when Joe Biden walked into the White House that first day, our southern border was secure. So the Democrats are completely responsible for the drugs and the death and the destruction that's come into our country ever since. We're talking about criminal cartels and drug dealers, people on the criminal watch list, the terrorist watch list. Those are the people that are threatening America. That's who the Attorney General was talking about today in the House when he said he's really worried about a terrorist attack. You've seen that Venezuelan, the 19-year-old who just shot 2 police officers in New York. Remember, it is the Democrats who stopped building the wall. It's the Democrats who stopped Remain in Mexico and brought us this catch and release. It's the Democrats that stopped allowing our Border Patrol to do what they needed to do to enforce the law. And that's why I believe come November that the American people are going to hold all these open border Democrats, as well as Joe Biden, responsible, accountable, and throw them out of office.
Well, is anybody talking about, seriously, anybody talking about deporting criminals? Okay. I mean, that is tied up with sanctuary cities. I mean, I just heard there's a story in today's New York Post. I think it was today, sir. It might have been yesterday. But Post reports how our mayor, Eric Adams, who can be so good and so not so good, but I don't want to get into that. Different segment. But Adams, meeting with Biden officials in Washington, basically said he wants to end New York City's status as a sanctuary city. He actually said that, had an argument with the White House senior staff person, who is now the campaign manager, as I recall, in this story, but basically said, I can't get rid of these criminals and I don't want to pay for them, and we're going to change our status away from the sanctuary city. Now, as you know, Senator Barrasso, that is a key element of solving this problem. We're beginning to solve it. Now, is anybody in the White House or the administration or DHS or, I don't know, Humpty Dumpty sitting on a wall, is anybody talking about this? Because these would be meaningful solutions.
Well, I agree with you, Larry. They would be meaningful solutions, but I don't think the Democrats actually want that. I think the Democrats love the fact that sanctuary cities are magnets for illegal immigrants. We see this in Colorado, in Denver. You see it in San Francisco. You see it in Chicago. And what that means is the more illegal immigrants that move there, they are now counted as part of the census. And as you know, the census, in my opinion, ought to be for U.S. citizens. It's not. It's for anybody that happens to be there. And they use the census to determine how many congressional seats a state gets, how many electoral college votes that state gets as well. So it impacts our elections. And so many of these blue states where people are leaving, they want out of there to get out of those states with high taxes and the crime and all of those things. They need those population centers to continue their role in elections. So I think the White House is happy to have all these sanctuary cities as a magnet for illegal immigrants who are then counted as part of the census.
Well, you know, sir, I would just make a small suggestion with the greatest of humility that you and your colleagues put together a legal immigration reform plan, a legal immigration reform plan. And please feel free to borrow heavily from what many of us in the Trump administration worked on. In 2020, the clock ran out. The Democratic Congress didn't want to touch it. But it was based on, you may recall this, John, it was based on a point system. You know some civics, speak English, know some American history, show you can get a job or make an investment into an American business. We borrowed heavily from Canada and New Zealand and Australia, which have, frankly, very successful, much better legal systems than we have. I mean, I think it would be great to show the positive here, that here's what a legal system could look like. You know, all right, we're going to have to make, big changes, restore remain in Mexico and the wall and so forth, and deport criminals and all that, yes. But at the same time, here's what a legal system would look like. In other words, run on a positive platform. Democrats don't want to touch that one with a 20-foot pole. They never did.
And it would only work if Donald Trump was back in the White House, because he would actually enforce the law. We have a lawless president right now in Joe Biden and lawless Democrats who will not enforce the law, even if that was the law that was passed. They're not enforcing the laws on the books now. There's not been a change in the laws since you and President Trump left the White House and Biden came in. The border was secure the day he came in, and no law has been changed. It's a matter of what they refuse to enforce, which is why we had 10 million illegal immigrants in the country today, with the crime and the drugs and the deaths of despair. And that's what's happened here because of Joe Biden and the open border Democrats. We need to clean house.
Yeah, they're going to break the entitlement system. Trump is right. The cost of this thing is going to be so astronomical. They'll bust up Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, for that matter. I mean, they're well on their way to doing that. I get it. I think the whole thing is a tragedy. This ain't going to solve anything. I agree with you about the lawlessness. I 100% agree.
In the sanctuary city of Denver, south of Wyoming, where I live, the greatest state in the country, in Colorado, getting their sanctuary city, the demands of the illegal immigrants are costing the city so much that they've had to lay off police officers and lay off members of the fire department, and we're trying to recruit them to come to Wyoming if they're looking for work.
Well, heck, you're right, sir. I mean, here in New York, they've thrown kids out, minority kids, out of school so they could make room to house the illegals. I mean, can you imagine that? And as you yourself said, tragically, 2 cops, New York's finest in Queens, were shot by some Venezuelan criminal who, of course, was an illegal. No, I get it, sir. But if you have a spare moment to phone calls, Brooke Rollins and Steve Miller and Chad Wolf, they helped put together the legal system proposals for Mr. Trump. You might want to check in. Just my 2 cents, Senator Barrasso, all these years I've known you.
We need Donald Trump back in the White House. That's what we need. That will help solve this problem dramatically.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And a Republican Senate and a Republican House of Representatives. We need it all.
No disagreements on this end, sir. Thank you, Senator John Barrasso of the greatest state in America, which is Wyoming, as he just told us. Thanks very much.